Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, I know I look like the oppressor. I'm a privileged white male, but I assure you I am an ally. I stand with the oppressed people. I find my identity in the oppressed people. And I'm just every bit of disgusted with my country's domestic and foreign policies, and I have literally no stake in the capitalist system, no invested interest, and I would rather see it dismantled and reconstituted from the bottom up. And so I think that's why I'm here. The title of this conference is End of Empire, and I completely agree. I think it's in decay, and I just want to give it another nudge and chip away at it so that it happens faster, because every day I think really matters. And I think with social media, I could not have predicted my life to take a turn and become known as a political activist of all things. I'm just a music teacher, and I think it's it should be very telling. I try to tell this to people, that the fact that I'm decided to speak up should tell you a lot about how ignorant and gaslit we as a population are by our, the corporate media that wants us to, just be, uninformed. So that, like, the fact that I'm, able to speak and it's connecting with people, it's because it's the truth and we don't hear it. And anyway, I do believe, like, we are fighting a $1 trillion PR industry with memes, and the crazy part is that we're winning. We're winning the information war, and I think that's we have the truth on our side, and a lot of people like to say that we just yap in front of a phone, but I think it's obviously. I think what we're doing is meaningful. I mean, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think it was significant. These are things that matter to all of us, and it matters to me. And I feel just ashamed of everything that's being done in our name. Sorry.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for the apology, too. Okay, Guy, your favorite guy. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Guy Christensen. I'm probably the third youngest person in this room. I see you two over there. I was gonna say youngest, but I'm glad you guys are here. I'm an activist influencer. I've been advocating for the Palestinian people for the last year, and I'm here because I love the Palestinian people. My heart is with them, and I empathize entirely with my whole soul and being, and I'm passionate about fighting for their struggle, and so that's basically it. Thank you.
All right, Neely.
Hi, my name is Neely, and is it on?
Testing. Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Neely. I am the founder of Neely by Nature, which I work on with my cousin and partner, Sadia, here. I think a lot of you guys know me from my advocacy of Palestine, but that didn't just happen out of nowhere. We started a documentary about a couple of years ago, and we started in Palestine. And after October 7th, like so many people, I was also very scared to show my support for Palestine, because it was a really scary time. But I remember, like, weeping and telling Sadia, like, did I go there to not speak up for them at the time that they are being exterminated? And so I also felt like a lot of Americans did not know what was happening in Palestine and where our tax dollars was going. And it's often because media companies and news outlets talk about Palestine with, like, and then the Oslo agreements, and then the Nakba, and, like, the Intifada, and you, like, completely overwhelming Americans with history that it's so insignificant, because the point is this is a group of people that are being occupied. And you need to explain it to Americans like they're 5. And I feel like TikTok and social media made it really easy for someone like me and Sadia, who actually witnessed what was happening in Palestine and was able to just give it to people in like 5 minutes and explained it to them like they were 5, and that was like the seed that was planted, and then people went out and did their own research. And I think that is what social media is like you just plant a seed in people's minds and people nurture it themselves. So I'm here today just to support the people, to support the Green Party. I'm so sick of the lesser of two evils bullshit. It's literally, I'm just over it. And I will not be, I will not be bullied into consistently for the rest of my life voting for the lesser of two evils. I think at the juncture of a genocide, we have to make a choice, and Palestine is the ultimate litmus test.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you. And thank all of you for being here on this panel today. I just know it's going to be great. I'll give a quick introduction of myself. My name's Lateria, at Young Black and Aware on Instagram. And I started doing social justice work, I guess you could say, about 10 years ago officially. What really got me into the work was, what piqued my interest was Trayvon Martin and the decision with George Zimmerman, because I just didn't understand it, and that's when I realized the America I was really living in and how I had been just naive to everything. And then what really did it for me was Sandra Bland. And that was when I decided to start Young Black and Aware, because I saw myself in her. I said she could have been me, like pulled over for no turn signal or something, and ends up dead in prison. You know, like it just didn't make sense. There was a lack of outrage, and that's when I realized the media was bought off and did not care about us as oppressed people. So I decided to put my own messages out there to my people. And I think that's the beautiful thing about social media. We're able to build these digital spaces, and we're kind of the pioneers of that. You know, this generation is the digital pioneer, and I think it's great because we have a chance to really change the way that technology is going and use it to actually advance and help our people. So thank you for being here again, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the panel discussion. I have a couple topics and questions for you guys, and you guys can just take turns answering, and then we're going to have a Q&A. I think this conversation is going to be really, really interesting, so I hope you guys are ready. So I want you guys to talk to the people about, so when you use your social media, it is one thing to go viral and to get people to understand your message. But what people don't understand in the digital space is that that's not something that just happens or is even guaranteed to happen all the time. And in the same breath, not just not going viral or being seen by a lot of people, but facing opposition to, you know, speaking your truth or speaking up for people. So in your experience, what can you say, like, are some pros and cons of social media and using your platform, and how you've navigated that? Nelly, would you like to start us?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I think it can be really tricky because I spent a year pleading to people about why they should care about children dying. And I think when I look back, I feel like I dehumanized myself in doing that. Like, why did I have to? And I was so vulnerable to share that with people. And I would do it again for Palestinians, but I feel like when I look back, I cannot believe that I had to do all of that to get people to care. And I think, like, one thing I've noticed with the pros and cons is that a lot of people know me because of my advocacy for Palestine, but they don't truly know me. So if I say something like against the Democratic Party, now I have a whole bunch of people that are like, I'm unfollowing you. And it's like, well, I would rather have 5,000 people that follow me and know what I am about versus having 200,000 or 1 million people following me who don't really know who I am. right? Having a more, a more concise, a smaller group of people that really understand who I am, and then we are able to actually build community. Because how can I build community with a group of people who do not care about the extermination of another group of people, or my group of people? I found that when I think maybe the day after Kamala put in her bid for presidency, I made a video that went viral, and it was very controversial. It was one of the very first videos that, like, so many people just, like, were going off on me. But I had said, we were on top of cars screaming Black Lives Matter in 2020, only for us to be voting in a cop in 2024.
Come on.
And I said, you know, Kamala Harris had, first of all, she was not a popular candidate when she was running for president during the 2020 elections, not even among Black Americans. She put so many Black Americans, Black and brown people in prison. And so when I received the backlash of it, I was just kind of like so shocked by it. And I think that was like the first time I experienced that type of backlash. And I do videos where I do say controversial things, but I felt like with that one, it really like hurt, because I was like, do you know who I am? And it's like, if you knew who I was, you would know my intentions. And that's when I realized it was so much better. I actually felt better if people unfollowed me that did not understand who I was and did not understand my morals. Because at the end of the day, if you knew me, you would understand my intentions. And the fact that people were flipping it and making it into, like, there was so many videos where people gave their hot take on that. But, you know, those are the pros and cons with when you're creating, when you go viral, and you're going viral for a certain topic. And also about, like, if I talk about Iran and China, or what's happening with Uyghur Muslims or other communities that are also being oppressed, people might be very much for free Palestine, but they might be supporting Iran and China. And it's just like, that's not where I stand. And I support all groups of people that do not have a voice on the global stage. So,
all oppressed people. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
I feel like I approach creating messages for people with a goal of trying to, like Nelly said, plant that seed. I want to spark that flame inside my audiences, the people who see my videos, their souls, because I have that fire in my soul, and I want to share that, and that is my goal. And when I talk about what I talk about in my content, that's what I live. This is what I think about. This is what I love. I care. I'm passionate about this, and I feel like coming to like digital activism with that approach of passion of wanting to inspire others is what we should put at the forefront.
You also educate, though.
Yeah.
You're very well informed, you know. It's not just the passion, but it's also you're educating your audience as well at the same time. So it's a highly effective thing that you're doing. And I agree.
I feel like I share things that I wanted to learn myself first.
Right.
And it's just a natural extension of how I live my life. And
Right.
I feel like that's a way, like why I make content about Palestine, and I activate people for Palestine. It's because there's who I am as a person.
And that was probably what happened to you. Like, I feel like smarter people educated me, and I want, you know, I'm a teacher by trade, so I want to communicate and articulate those things back to other people and do that for someone else and, you know, share the message. But, you know, yeah, we're political agitators. I mean, you're supposed to look at the content and feel something, frustration.
You're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
It's supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to be unsettling, because it is unsettling. And, you know, every social movement has three aspects to it: agitate, educate, and organize. And I am not, admittedly, an organizer, but I do think I, you know, can fulfill, you know, agitating and educating people. So that's that's what I'm trying to do. And people, you know, because I get criticism, and I'm sure you all do too, about, well, you're not really doing it, you're not organizing people. But, you know, that's not, you know,
Your
there's
little
other,
page.
there's other, what's that?
With your little page.
Yeah, with your little page. But, you know, I think thoughts turn into action. You can't have the right actions if you don't have the right thoughts first. And we're trying to influence people to be informed and have the right ideas, so that they, you know, I just think we need more class-conscious people just even understanding what kind of a society that you live in, just walking around the earth, you know, like that would be a sea change, I think. But you know, and it would manifest itself in many different ways. But yeah, I think that's just my point is my skill set is articulation in agitation and education.
And I just want to segue perhaps off of what Rathbone just said. I have a short little thing prepared about a little speech I wrote, if that's okay.
Please,
very short.
now
Do
is
it.
the time for the keynote, guy.
The keynote. So today I want to share my story and discuss Gen Z activism and the power of social media. Did you know that 1/3 of Gen Zers say they regularly engage in activism for the issues they care about? That rate is almost 50% higher than the engagement of millennials. No offense, guys. That also means that there are nearly 500 million young activists running around in the world. I myself, and I'm sure others here in the crowd, are some of these people. Not only are there more activists in Gen Z than any other generation, but Gen Z and the next generation is shaping up to be the most influential cohort in history. We care deeply about social justice and human rights, and we are acting on our beliefs. Actually, a larger proportion of Gen Z cares about every issue across the board than any other age group in the United States. 66% of our activism is carried out online, meaning that our social spaces online need to be recognized as the future of organizing and activism. Despite that fact, and despite the trend of Americans shifting to consuming news and politics online more than ever, and despite the fact that most people in this day and age are now forming their political opinions online, 76% of people believe that all social media does is make people think they're making a difference when they actually aren't. I am here today as living proof of the real power of digital activism. I am here trying to be a symbol of hope for young people and human beings. I am here to show you that anyone's voice can change minds, lives, and even the world. Let's rewind to October 7th. I have to admit, like Latiria here said earlier, before October 7th, I knew nothing about Israel or Palestine. Zero. Nilch. I had an established platform, though, where I'd been speaking a bit about American politics over the course of 3 or 4 years. And when I saw my feed flooded with countless pro-Israel posts attacking the Palestinian people, I was caught off guard. But then, I saw a pair of comments on my TikTok. Someone had said, it was this very simple comment, it said Google Nakba. It said Google open air prison. And so that's what I did. What I found changed the course of my life. What I found ignited a fire in my soul. I was shocked to learn of Israel's illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, their violence against Palestinians, the displaced families and bulldozed homes. To me, it was reminiscent of the colonization of Native Americans by English settlers. The parallels were haunting, and it begged the question, why was this not being talked about in the context of October 7th? Why was nobody mentioning these facts? Nobody in the media, nobody online. I learned the true nature of the Gaza Strip. 2 million people locked behind a prison wall on a parcel of land. Half of them are children. Israel has 2 decades history of restricting their access to things like water and calories even. They aren't free. Israel even has a term for this, hafrada, meaning separation. The Jewish state bill allows the replacement of Palestinian households with Zionist ones. And it offered another layer to me as I'm learning about Zionism and the true nature of the state of Israel at this point in my life. And it was a turning point that made me question the morality of Israel's actions. Everything I was being fed by the Western media, by my content feed, was the total opposite of what I was learning about. It seemed like, and we know this, that the Western media is unanimous in trying to paint Israel as 100% in the right. I mean, you've seen the biased headlines over the past year. So, as I was discovering the truth, I was wondering, why was there a resounding silence about the struggle of the Palestinians? Nobody wanted to talk about it. So, a turning point in this personal journey of mine occurred when I received an email from a Zionist organization offering me $5,000 to pledge my support for Israel on live stream. This came a few days after October 7th. And also after I had posted a single video, I think this was one of my first videos about Palestine, comparing the parallels between American colonization and that of historic Palestine on my account. This was my first direct encounter with the Israeli propaganda machine, and it was an offer to trade truth for money. I was disgusted. My morals are not for sale. I grappled with the fear of speaking out. The headlines that day were filled with stories of the Harvard students getting blacklisted, doxxed. They had, I believe, a truck with the students' faces and names and I believe addresses going around campus, and Wall Street execs were going onto the media in the United States saying these kids are never being hired. And all because they signed a letter in support of Palestine. And this is what I was seeing. And I was asking myself, what if the same would have happened to me if I spoke out? And then I thought, why do I have this platform? Why have I been gifted with these skills if I do not use it to stand up for what is right? Especially when it feels like the hardest choice to make in the entire world. I knew I had to step up. Since that day, I've probably spent upwards of 10,000 hours in research, speaking, thinking about, crying for, and advocating for Palestine. There is not a single thing in the world I'm more passionate about. There is not a single topic I've studied more in my 18 years of living. The more videos I've made, the more I've learned of the extent of the oppression and subjugation of the Palestinian people. My content has reached over 500 million people in the last year. Imagine that. Me, at the time I was a senior in high school who knew nothing about Israel and Palestine. And I was able to accomplish so much. I was able to change so many minds. I was able to educate and enlighten so many millions of people, all with just my voice. And just to further debunk the thought that digital activism is not effective in real life, in the last 48 hours, myself and Rathbone here were able to raise a little over $16,000 for a man and his family in northern Gaza just through social media posts. And this is not a brag. I'm trying to prove a point here. And another example of real action in the world is that over the summer I made, I think, just 2 short videos about a boycott app called No Thanks. If you don't have it, please download it. It's on iOS and Android. And it allows people to scan any product anywhere and know whether or not it's on the boycott for Israel list. And those 2 videos encouraged 500,000 people to download that app. Think about the long-term effect down the line of all those people who joined in boycotting, who were able to start boycotting because of technology, because of my videos. That is likely tens of millions of dollars that were stopped from supporting a genocide. We are in an age of digital activism, and we exist under the shadow of algorithms. They do act to suppress us, but I will say, in the end of the day, they serve capitalism over Zionism, and we can take advantage of that. Any person in the entire world has the opportunity now to be heard by the masses. Anyone's voice can ignite fires in other people's souls. You can resonate with others, and you can change the world. I'm glad I chose to stand with the Palestinians. Everything that has happened since that fateful day I spoke out has given me more resolve in my decision. Every word I hear out of the mouths of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, every hospital I've seen bombed out, raided, razed to the ground, every cry of a child in Gaza, every lie, every atrocity, the thousands of atrocities, every word of support, every word of love I receive is proof. Silence is not the answer. Our voices are the most powerful thing in the entire world, and it is our human duty to use it. It is my goal to inspire others to follow my steps and transforming themselves into activists. And I want to end this speech by quoting Audre Lorde, "The transformation of silence into language and action." This excerpt has inspired me greatly. And it is never without fear of visibility, of the harsh light of scrutiny, and perhaps judgment, of pain, of death. But we have lived through all of these already, in silence except death. And I remind myself all the time now that if I were to have been born a mute, or had maintained an oath of silence my whole life long for safety, I would still have suffered, and I would still die. I implore you, use your voices. Speak truth to your passions. Fight for what you care about. Feed that fire in your soul. What you will find is that you are not alone. Your voice is powerful, and you can and will change the world. You will be blessed. Your soul will be fulfilled. And I promise you, it will all be worth it. Change starts with you, with all of us, and especially with the youth and with the students. And with that, I want to cede my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. That was so powerful. I just, as someone who used to work in youth development for several years, I want to double down on how important it is for us to invest in the youth. And it's not just money, it's time, it's knowledge, it's community, it's showing them things we were not shown because the oppressor was working hard to continue oppressing us, And so thank you for that, Guy. And what Guy to me represents it with his generation of young white men who are willing to step up and use their platform and privilege to support and uplift oppressed people. I think you are setting the right example for this generation and future generations. And I was sharing with Guy earlier a little bit of history, but he likes history, about a group of people in America. They were the Dunkards. I'm gonna give y'all some homework research to do. But they considered the Dunkards, that's what they called them, but they were German Baptists. And they were white German Baptist men and women, but I want to emphasize the men because y'all know we don't have a lot of good history with white men. So I'm going to take this time to point them out because we don't hear about people like them. Instead, we hear about Confederate soldiers and, super racist people, and we honor those people. But if we continue to uplift the people who are on the right side of history, and make sure that their stories are also told, I think that is leading us towards the freedom and justice we are working towards. So, and I'm just going to pivot into another question about the intersectionality of our digital spaces, right? Because social media, what it has done for us as a culture is it's opened up the camera to other people's lives. Many of us traditionally, and I'm not saying this is everyone, again, many of us traditionally, we are around people that look like us. Right? Or they might be, if they don't look like us, they're like in our tax bracket, if you will. Where social media really opened everything up. We're able to see how everybody lives. We see the rich and famous. We see the broken ratchet in country. And then we see middle class everybody. And for the first time, we could truly see that we have a lot in common. But more importantly than just seeing what we have in common is us coming together based on the oppression that we are all facing collectively, And I think that's the beautiful thing about what we have used digital spaces to do after October 7th, because that didn't just start happening October 7th, but I feel like October 7th added a new layer of intersectionality to all social justice movements. You know, we could truly see how I hate to keep saying the word, but intersectional all of our issues are, and how it all magically goes back to white supremacy somehow. So I want you guys to maybe talk about how being intersectional or learning about other people's struggles have helped your platform, or you've used it on your platform. And also, I want you guys to talk about collaborations, because again, people don't like to give social media like credit when they say technology. They like to separate tech, and social media is like its own thing. But social media is technical, you know, and as Guy was saying, it's all about algorithms. And some of you weren't here earlier, but I said before, these algorithms aren't smarter than me or you. You know, it's all about remembering that you have the power to control. They could suggest to me till they die, I'm not following, or I'm not, you know, because I know I have the control. And once I choose to give the platform the control, you know, then they're able to get into my mind. We got to take the control back on social media. And a powerful tool after October 7th on Instagram specifically has been the collaboration feature, because we as creators and as activists are now able to share spaces and audiences like with many people at the same time. Like, it really is a cool technical feature that I think has taken social justice movement to the next level. And let me tell y'all, they messed up when they made that feature. They really messed up.
Sorry, can I cut in real quick
Yes,
for a
go
second?
ahead,
I'm
guys, chime in.
feature. I collab with you two, Palestinians in Gaza, Europeans, everyone across the world. And so this feature is really amazing. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. I mean, so no, I want you guys to, you know, speak on intersectionality and any collaborating you've done in your social media spaces.
Well, I think that, you know, I'm a communist, and as a communist, I believe that it all goes back to the class-based society that we live in, where there are two classes. There's the exploiters and the exploited, and there are obviously varying degrees of being exploited, but the basics are that the most essential thing is how we relate to the productive forces of our society, and the social relations to the productive forces of our society. And we are all workers for the most part. I mean, we're not capitalists. Capitalists own the means to produce, and, you know, I think I just try to teach that to people, because I think people get lost in this culture war that the capitalists love to sell us to keep us divided. But really, it's the fact that Really, it's just the fact that 3 white Americans own more wealth than 4 billion people. I mean, that's the world that we live in.
Talk about it.
You know, I mean, if you know, and every time I make a video, I'm always thinking, like, what is the most important thing I want to share with people? If I had one thing left to say to people before I leave this earth, like, what are the most essential things? And I think there's some basic facts we need to come to reckon with, which we don't as a society, and I think that's one of them.
Zionism.
Yeah. That's basically all I have to
I
say.
guess what I want to say is ask you guys, look around you right now. Look at who you're sitting next to. I see every color in this room, every religion in this room. Look at Latoya was talking about October 7th was a moment for coalition building, for intersectionality. It added another layer. Look at what Palestine, what this has brought everyone together for. And I guess I'll share some ways that we build coalitions online. Instagram DMs, we always reach out to each other as activists and collaborate on posts.
Yeah, the collaboration feature is really dope. And I know a lot of times the reason that the average person who is not highly involved with social media like myself is not inclined to try new features, right? And so I think this is why we can show you guys like how it is impactful if you take the time to learn how to do it. And I'll just add quickly, another part of the reason I started my platform was because I did not see anything like that I wanted or cared about in the media. I would hear things happening. I see the groups posting it online, and I don't see it anywhere in the news. You know, if they do talk about it, it's a little 2-second clip, then they're on to the next thing, you know, and it just didn't feel right. I'm like, I don't even want to go to work today. Like, I'm hurt. I need time to heal. I need community. And I found that online, and I found that I had to define my role in the space. This is what I tell people. Like Rathbone said earlier, he wouldn't consider himself an organizer, and that's okay. Because what you are is an educator. You have a role in the space. And sometimes we try to cross lanes. First thing, stay in your lane. You know, figure out what it is you're good at. If it's social media and being in front of the camera, then do that. But you might be an organizer and be better behind the scenes. You might be the one who's good at admin stuff. You collect all the emails and make the phone calls. Like, we have got to learn how to use social media, yes, but learn your place on there. Because we all don't have the same place. Like, I'm doing the posting, but then there's people doing the engaging, and that's important too. And that's how we keep the conversations going and growing. You know, it's not just about memes, and like the Shade Room inspired a lot of my work. I'm not gonna lie, because they pissed me off so heavily on the stupidity they focus on when they have such a huge platform and there's so much injustice happening. You know, and I realized, like, there's no real media that focuses on what we care about. And what do we care about? I don't just want to hear about trauma all the time, because that's not what our people and our cultures are built. We've been forced into trauma, you know, but we are multifaceted people. We want to learn, we want to laugh, we want to do all types of things. And so that's been what I have tried to balance in my platform. And it didn't matter when I had 500 followers or now I got, like 30K. Guy has millions and millions of followers. And he chose to take a stand. I took a stand when I had 10 followers, because you just got to have that passion and willingness to do something about something. And someone will shade you if what you're doing is, I'm using my Instagram, I'm promoting, so you fake woke now, huh? People will try to throw their things, but what are you doing? What are you doing, though? I just educated maybe 10 people about what's going on. What did you do? So don't let those, the propaganda and people trying to discourage you from spreading information. Like, they would rather you just be mindlessly scrolling all day. And I think that's what we have to use against them. Like he said, Zionism is here, but it's capitalism above that. Like, one thing about it, they care about their money. So
I just wanna add.
Sure, go ahead.
It doesn't matter if you are an influencer with thousands of millions of followers. When you post something on your story that's a political message or any opinion, you are coalition building. You're bringing together the people who follow you. And likely, the average follower count on Instagram is just under 1,000. So a few hundred people see the message that you're sharing out, and you're connecting them with that movement. You're connecting them with that. You are coalition building, and you're performing digital activism. And just to share the statistic, half of social media say they have shared a post about politics or an issue they care about in the past year.
Thank you. Nellie, you want to?
Yeah. A couple things. I think when I think about intersectionality, I think about listening to people who have a difference of opinion, which I think that we, as a generation, as a society, have such a difficult time. I was born and raised in the Bronx, and just recently, just recently, stand up. Now, just recently, Trump came to the Bronx, and there were so many black and brown people that showed up for him. And I remember in 2020, I remember a lot of my friends who are black and brown were going to vote for Trump. And I remember fighting so hard with them and being like, we need to vote for Biden. Like, we would go scream at the top of our lungs.
Lesser evil!
Yes. And I felt like it wasn't lost on them that Trump is a racist person, but to them it's like everyone in Washington is racist. I think
The problem.
and when I talk to a lot of liberals and Democrats about Trump, they're often like, Trump will be significantly terrible for black and brown people. And so when I respond and I say, well, so many black and brown people, more black and brown people voted for Trump in 2020 than they did in 2016, and that number is projected to jump in 2024. And we need to ask ourselves why. And oftentimes those same liberals and Democrats will say, well, they don't know what's best for them. And that to me sounds like you are saying that these people are not educated enough, but you know what's best for them. And you cannot discount the fact that they have their reasons to vote for them. And sometimes you'll even hear liberals and Democrats say, well, they're only voting for him because they got that $1,200 stimulus check. And it's like, even if that was the reason, to them, they got something out of Trump's presidency than they did under any Democratic president.
Yeah.
For a lot of people from very underprivileged neighborhoods, like the Bronx. Bronx is one of the poorest neighborhood in New York City, and I think also across the country. So that $1,200, I think there was 2 stimulus checks that made all the difference for a lot of people. Yeah. So you have people like Biden who promised, I'm going to erase student loan debt. They didn't do shit. They literally said they were going to give us more money, more time on unemployment, cancel our student loan debt, and they didn't come up with anything. So for these people, the fact that they got something out of it, that's something that they didn't get out of any other Democratic president. Now, that's not to say I share their opinions, but I understand that, right? And I feel like a lot of people who are going really hard for Kamala will be like, to a lot of pro-Palestinian people, like, you can't be mad at me for voting for Kamala. I have a right to vote. But then those same people will be super mad at people who are voting for Trump. And you have to keep that same energy across the board,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Keep the same energy.
And it's like, you can't be mad at people for voting for who they're going to vote for, despite what you feel about it. And I think there's a lot of rejection that people have for hearing a difference of opinion. And I also think that, we're living in a time where what is progress, right? And if you think about the ways that liberals talk about progress, it's like gender neutral bathrooms and pronouns and, are you saying houseless instead of homeless? And it's like, listen, I can guarantee you a homeless person doesn't give a fuck if you call them homeless or houseless. They do not care. And it's like, this has become the veil of what progress is. And progress is literally when someone has their basic needs met. And if people don't have their basic needs met, do they really care about a gender neutral bathroom? And that is what the position that a lot of black and brown people in a lot of these cities feel, is that you've made us believe that this is progress, but that is not progress. When our basic needs are met, then progress can feel like gender neutral bathrooms and pronouns and such and such. And I've had such in these past few years, I had such a time just doing all this research with Sadia and talking to people with so many differences of opinions. And it feels like you cannot talk about these things out loud, because then it's like you're transphobic or, and it's like, wait. I've talked to families that feel like, they feel some type of way about, the pronouns and kids having to question their sexuality at such a young age. And for them, it's like, there's a sanctity to a child's life, right? And it's like, I just want my kid to be a kid for a little bit, because they have their entire lives to question and to be hit with trauma. It's like, if I can just protect them and they can just enjoy their childhood, what is wrong with that? And then it's like, if they say that out loud and they're met with, you're transphobic or you don't care about LGBT, that is not what it is. Right. And I think that if we are, intersectionality to me is really meeting at the intersection to say, this is how I feel. And if there is no room for that, then you cannot actually build community. You cannot actually have real liberation.
Sorry.
Beautiful. Sorry, Haley, that was beautiful. Thank you.
I was just going to say, not only wants people's basic needs met, she sounds like a communist.
But that was such a good way of defining progress. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard it put that way before. Just having basic needs. I mean, that's like probably the most, like, what do you call it, bare minimum definition. And it's still like, yes, please, can we get some of that, please?
Yeah, I think even people who are part of the LGBT community are not even having their basic needs met. So it's like you're giving them, every job application and school application is like, what's your pronouns? What is that really doing for them if they're not getting their basic needs met?
Yes.
And I think that right now these kids, I feel like, a lot of people make fun of a lot of these Gen Z kids because they're like, these are my pronouns, I'm they, them, and I am neurodivergent. And they're coming up with all these things. And it's like, I understand that. It's because they're coming into a world where they have so much accessibility to everything. They have so many options, right? And it's like, that can be confusing. I grew up in a world where, like, I was just talking to Sadia, and we were talking about how, like, when we were growing up, when we would watch a movie and a kissing scene would come on, and we were watching with our family, we would, like, change the channel and everyone would look away. And it was
my
like,
mom would make me turn away. She'd be like, you better.
And it's like, that was I know I'm not the only one, but, like, now these parents are being forced to have these conversations about, like, what's your sexuality, and it's like, it's overwhelming, right? It's overwhelming because they have not only so much accessibility to information, it's like the social media too is like, what's your opinion on this, and what's your take on this, and what's your sexuality? And I can imagine how that can make someone feel, especially a child who does not even have their prefrontal lobe developed, to feel so just like burdened and overwhelmed.
But you know what? I want to share a quick
push back on that
Oh, go
actually
ahead.
a little
Yes.
bit.
I'm sure you do.
I feel like having conversations with your children about sexuality and stuff is preparing them for the world that they have to live in. Like, you're talking about how the world is different from when you grew up in, where parents are forced to confront this
You look away.
wall, this talk with their child about their sexuality and gender. But that's the world that their children are going to school in. That's the society they
I think
live
it's
in.
about having autonomy, and everyone wants to feel like they have freedom over what they want. So you think that, but that doesn't mean that someone else doesn't. I know some very, very religious Muslim families that don't need to, they don't want to, and that's okay. That's okay. There is nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with the way you
that
feel.
shows
And-
that they are not ready for that level of intersectionality, and I think it's a progress and a process. I myself have had some challenging conversations around LGBT allyship and my place in it, right? Because I was like, I support, but I also have certain views on certain things that I know that other people don't feel the same. And we shouldn't feel like we can't talk about things respectfully and in love. I'm going to add that, because I think that's what takes away from our communicating to the other side. Now, the other day I was at the park with my son for a birthday party, and there was I forgot her name, Penelope, who to me presented as a boy with short hair, but she had a dress on, right? And so I was like, oh, okay. And my son had he was playing with Penelope, and I asked him, I said, is he a boy or a girl? And he said he's a boy, but his name is Penelope, and he likes to wear dresses. And I said, oh, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. I said, I'll leave it alone. Like, if that's your understanding of it, great. And I just realized that me as a parent trying to push, my lack of understanding is not going to help him. And I have also been exposed. Exposed is not the right word, but I've had experiences. A lot of it is lack of experience. And I can, when white people use the fact that they don't know black people or they don't know people of color as a reason to not learn, I put myself in that position when it comes to other things I don't know about, or that I'm not directly a part of, like the LGBT community. And so, you know, like I have a friendship now with a trans person that I have not had before. And so I was able to learn new things, and I was able to learn to speak differently because that person impacted me in the way that I speak about it. Even if I feel a certain way on it, I am learning how to transition the way I speak about it because we all want to be heard, you know? And what I also have to keep in mind is everyone wants to say, oh, you know, this LGBT stuff is new. It's not that it's new. It's that they were not given the opportunity to express themselves. Society has oppressed that community. And it is something that we have to address, you know, that they have not been able to express themselves as people. Now, if we want to get into religions and all that, that's another topic for another day. But as human beings, I believe everyone should be able to show up how they feel most loved, you know, and that's my take on that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right. So we're going to move right along. Thank you guys. We're going to move right along, but thank you guys for that discussion on intersectionality. So I wanted to also talk about the downside because I think we kind of brushed on it, but I want to brush on it a little bit more because I think us up here are in a place of doing this work for a little bit of time. So like the backlash isn't necessarily discouraging to us at this point. But for people out there wanting to grow on social media as an activist, wanting to step out and speak up on something, you know, like even me, I could say about me being an LGBT ally, you know, I've started sharing more things and learning more information, and then you'll have people like, but oh, wasn't that the girl that was that? Okay, so I'm not allowed to grow? I give myself permission to grow, and you should too, you know, and I don't think we should demonize and criminalize people for learning. We are humans, especially if it's not coming from a hateful place. Hate, I don't have no room for that. But yeah, let's discuss just how to really use your voice and push past the negativity that may come at you for speaking up truth. I think it's like expected, but many people, when put in that position, like I'll keep bringing up October 7th because it's relevant, but a lot of people spoke up pretty immediately for Palestine, and then there were a lot of people that were kind of silent. Like, I don't think we talk about that enough. Like, there was a period of silence from a lot of people on social media. And so when you did speak up about it or speak out, you didn't know what to expect, you know, and people losing jobs, people losing friends, all sorts of stuff. So it's not just social media. For those who think that it is, like when you're using your voice and telling your truth or trying to educate on other people's truth, it may come with repercussions. And so, yeah, let's just have some discussion around that a little bit.
There are consequences to using your voice online, especially, I guess I'll share my personal story about this. But when you're talking about something a topic so heavy like Palestine, like genocide, you need to take steps to protect your peace, your family's peace, and your privacy, especially. For example, over the summer, a Zionist called one of my uncles asking for information about me. My uncle lives multiple states away, and they tracked him down. Another example is Zionists wrote my name on a bomb that they dropped in Gaza. Horrible. Another example
Next level evilness.
Something that I will not share yet, but I'll probably share it next week. That happened to me on the way coming to this event. Probably the worst thing that has been attempted against me yet. But you have to be strong, and you have to have your resolve and know that you are not alone, and you have friends all around you, like-minded people who care about the same things you do, who know the same things you do, and you have to find your strength in that. So yeah.
I think it's the least we can do. I mean, what protection do the Palestinians have? You know, they're facing, you know, unimaginable consequences. So the least thing that I can do is speak on their behalf because they have no voice. Not to say that they don't have a voice, but at least I can amplify their voice. And I just don't care anymore. I mean, if it offends you, okay. I mean, like, who are these people? They're just I mean, I wanted to say something, not, you know, F off or something, but I want to be respectful here. But I just don't care anymore. Who are they? They're just a bunch of keyboard warriors. They can go seethe and cope and brood about it. They're not going to do anything. They're all, you know, faceless trolls, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm not speaking to, obviously, there are real life consequences that you've experienced and I've experienced too. I guess I'm at the point of life, the point in my life where I just don't care. It's if it offends you, it's probably meant to offend you. So it's not going to stop me from speaking the truth, you know. So.
Nelly, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think if you are being threatened for speaking your truth, that must mean you're really powerful. So I think, yeah, it's working, and I think you should. I don't know. It makes me feel like what I have to say matters enough that it's triggering people, and I think like triggering people is actually like to be triggered is actually a sign of change, right? It's like someone knows inside that something's wrong, and like they're not confronting it. So if you're triggering someone with your message, and I've been triggered, I know that because people have triggered me, but that made me kind of have to look at what it was that I was actually being angry at. So I think that there's a lot of power in triggering people, and yeah, it's obviously unfortunate and scary to receive threats, but yeah, you just have to keep speaking your truth.
I agree with what Rathbone said, and what you just said about the comparison to what the Palestinians are going through is nothing to what I've experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I get up and I go walk to the coffee store. I'm not in fear of getting bombed. I mean, I'm going to go back to my apartment, and it's going to still be there. You know, I'm going to have a nice bed and a warm meal and all this. Like, I have all the things. So that's not something that is afforded to the Palestinians, and that's a great injustice. And the least I can do is speak up about that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for that. You said something important earlier. Guy, I think it was you that said it about how, or maybe it was you, Nelly. Sorry, about how
Wasn't me.
I don't think it was you, Rathbone. It was too sophisticated. No, I'm just kidding.
Cut me while I'm down, why don't you?
Emotional damage. Okay, so what you said was about whether it was you, Nelly. You said whether you have 500 or 5,000, like you would rather have 5,000 that are truly engaged than like 5 million who are just there. Like I know people just hear that as words, right? But can we all talk about the importance of building real community and what that looks like? And I can even start it off quickly about how I've shared digital space with people that has turned into real life activism and organizing. Over the past year, I had the opportunity to travel to Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, to get people registered to vote, one, and secondly, to protest against Southern Company, which is a bad company in the South that provides power to Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And I was connected to that project by somebody in California that I had never met before, and we all decided to fly out and go do this work, And here's what got to me was first of all, we had to raise funds to go because, listen, I was broke. And I'm like, yo, this is what community action is all about. Like, it makes no sense to me why most social justice activists are struggling to pay every single one of their bills. You know, every single month I'm seeing Cash Apps and GoFundMe, and rightfully so, because I think that you should ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. You know, it's all about community aid and community help. And I think they should ask, but it's sad that they actually have to ask. You know, like, that kind of work should be given the credit and payment and stuff that it deserves. But not to go off topic, but let's talk about how building our online spaces have impacted just everything. Because like me meeting that group and then meeting other people online and doing the actual work has shown me that it's bigger than social media. You know, like I'm actually impacting real work, impacting real lives. And I'm sorry, I had lost my train of thought about Mississippi. I got to get back to it. What people were saying when I was, you know, telling them raising money, I'm going there, they're like, girl, why are you going there? Like, you going to Mississippi? Like, why you want to go there? And I was just like, well, isn't it a part of America? Like, do the people in Mississippi not matter or something? Like, are we like, oh, Mississippi? Like, how, it kind of feels like we abandoned the South a little bit, you know? And it's like, I don't think it's talked about enough. We can't just be like, oh, it's racist down there, so we just gonna leave them all down there in the racism? You know, like they need our voices. Like, so yes, we flew out to Mississippi, you know, from all these different places to bring awareness to what was going on with Southern Company and how they're literally charging the hell out of poor people for power, and the poor people have no choice but to pay. You know, people need our voices to speak up for them. And social media has been able to build that and give us space to do that. But it is work to do that. You know, it doesn't just happen overnight that you just have even 100 followers that just want to follow you. Like, everything takes work. And building a community takes work. Building an online community really takes work. So I'll let you guys talk. Who wants to go first?
What was the question?
About building an online community and like what that can do, why that's good for social media to begin with, like versus trying to just have a bunch of followers or trying to get visibility. Like, why is it important to build your community first and then educate after?
I don't know if I'm going to give a good answer to that, because it just sort of it just sort of happened. You know, it was not like I was planning on it. I had issues that I was passionate about that I wanted to share, and I felt like I had my principles in place. And I think once you get rooted in your principles, you can then start to decode all the many different individual phenomena that rise up, you know, manifest themselves in our society and the world. So and, you know, is it work? Yes. But it's also, it doesn't feel like work because I'm passionate about it. And I feel like I'm doing good. And so, you know, it just, I'll make I started a TikTok account, and I had no idea that it would get any sense of engagement, but it started to, and then people started commenting, and they would comment some dumb thing that I wanted to correct them on, and I thought that it was always more powerful to respond to a comment with another video with my face saying the words, giving a full response, and I just kind of became addicted to debunking these asinine comments that are just, you know, dumb propaganda, you know, that you're fed, and I was fed, and I never at that, you know, up until that point, I could have never, you know, articulated why or been able to respond, but at that point I was able to do that, so I just became sort of addicted to that, and then, you know, being constantly engaging with content, you know, it sort of has a steamroll effect, if you will. Momentum builds, and then pretty soon people are just watching you just to hear what your next take is. So that's what I have.
When I make my videos, I try to make them as if I'm talking to you directly. It's a one-on-one conversation, and I feel like that is really important in community building, for me at least, because it puts you in like that one-on-one situation. Someone in an earlier panel, I believe it was Paul, was talking about the importance of those one-on-one situations where people are educated, and those are the most valuable, and I agree with what he said. And so I've been trying to replicate that one-on-one type feeling, because I feel like I'm bringing a message to people with open arms, and it makes people so much more open-minded to hearing things that are supposed to make them uncomfortable.
And there's different ways you can do it too. I mean, you can be straight-laced and be genuine and sincere, which you're great at, and you can also be satirical, and you can use sarcasm. And with Israel, I don't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing that I'm appalled by what they're doing. I want to ridicule them for their cowardice. I want to, it's like that 12-year-old Palestinian girl said, like, decades ago, because this was always going on, she said their cowardice is legendary. And, it's just, you got to ridicule and shame them, because they're not even, what they're doing is not human. And, I feel like they revel in being reviled, so I don't want to give them that. But, I don't know.
I think if the question is, how do you build community off of our social media platforms? I think one thing about social media is that everyone has an opinion and everyone has a hot take. And everyone feels like everyone's given a platform to give their hot take. And then it's also like, what happens after that, right? So you do have to you have to actually do something after that, right? Like, you can't just constantly talk about it. Okay, great, you opened up my mind, and then what? And I think one of the things I did was I just started hitting people up that was on the same frequency, that also had platforms, and was like, if you're ever here in this neighborhood, I would love to meet. And actually just started meeting people and connecting with them, and literally it was like a spider web. It was like, this person will connect to this person, that person will connect this person, and literally finding that actually there's so many artists and writers and creatives that are doing amazing things. And it's not just always about networking up, it's networking across, and making sure that you are taking what you're doing online offline. And that doesn't just have to be if you have a platform. It's just even if you are just a person that has like 100 followers, if you're organizing your community, find people in your community and start working there. We all have different skill sets, and if it comes down to, okay, like, let's collaborate on this. I've literally met so many people just this year that are doing phenomenal work, and then just started collaborating with them, and that opened up so many opportunities. And I think that's something that Zionists do really well, is that they have first of all, their power across institutions is wild, but a lot of us are the working forces that work under those institutions. And it's like, it can actually be quite amazing to know that someone is working for those institutions, but then are very pro-Palestine and are also doing something on their, off time to work for the liberation. So I think the work that we're doing online, I think that can also get to people's head, because they look at their following count and that gets to their head, and it's just like, we are all equals and we're all amazing and everyone is doing amazing work, but I think like it actually has to manifest into something material in this world. And you have to actually, I think my advice to a lot of young people is, if you have a lot to say and you're good at yapping, that means that you're probably an artist. You're probably someone who is a creative, and you need to actually bring that into the physical world and figure out what that is, because it is more than just, like, a platform is great, but you can actually leverage a platform to create the art that you want to see and manifest that into the real world. And I think that is really important, because art really is, in my opinion, art is freedom, and that's what we're all here to do. It's like, when we are in creativity,
Yes.
yeah, I think when we're in creativity, we are in God's energy, and God is our creator. So I think that is what's necessary.
And on that note, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, today's social media and social justice panel. Thank you guys so much. That was really awesome. We're gonna open it up to a couple questions now from the audience. Ooh, I see a couple. Okay, do you mind handing her a mic? Okay, thank you. She can start.
Hello. I just want to say I watch all of your videos, all of your postings. I'm always on your guys' feed, so I appreciate the work that you guys do. You're going to see a lot of me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on, after George Floyd's death, there were a lot of important conversations, especially me, ethnically Puerto Rican, racially very white. So there are a lot of conversations that were important at that time. And one of them that always sticks with me is that black people and black and brown people, and black people in America specifically, are justified in being cautious or not wanting to invite white people into their spaces because white tears kill. Their words are taken more seriously and all that stuff. And now with everything that's going on in Palestine, I work with a ton of Jewish people, and there have been situations where somebody I really respected, who I knew they were Jewish before, I didn't know it was a problem, I'm not anti-Semitic, but somebody I really respected, after November, she posted something about buying IDF soldiers $300 watches, and they were trying to get 110 of them. And so
Gross.
I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate and be respectful to Jewish allies, because they're essential in this conversation about Palestine, as are Palestinians, of course. But also, I'm dealing with this hesitance and caution because they hold so much power in our world, in jobs and stuff like that, and doxing and things like that. And it's not just me. My boyfriend is a black Nigerian man, and I have to worry about his safety. So I wanted to know your thoughts on those things.
Can I start? Only because I want to make sure I'm understanding, because Jewish and Judaism and Zionism are two different things. So I want to make sure we're on the same page with that. So you mean they happen to be a combination of both?
I work with Jewish people who are Zionists.
Okay.
Right, and that's where, and I know Jewish people who aren't Zionists and who are a part of the movement. There's Jewish Voice for Peace,
Right.
And there are tons of people who are, doing the right thing.
Gotcha. Okay. No. I thank you for the clarification. I'll quickly say, because I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, that is a highly concentrated area of Orthodox Jews. Right, so I had a very unique upbringing experience. I literally grew up around all Jewish people. And in my experience, Jewish people are loving, they are big on family, big on religion and community, and that is the version of Judaism that I saw. So me growing up and learning about Zionism and how it's infiltrated and tried to pretend to be Judaism. To me, it's similar to what racism has done in Christianity. It's tried to take away from the religion and its principles. I would just say that the best way to combat that internally with yourself is remembering that their principles, Jewish principles, do not align with Zionism. And so if they are showing that, then you have every right to question their, faith as a Jew. I don't know if you say that outwardly or just, internally understand that this person is a Zionist and I cannot have certain dialogues with them, because we have to learn to protect our peace too. So that's where I'm at with it.
Judaism is not an ethnic. I'm sorry. Were you just about to go? Okay, awkward pause. Judaism is not an ethnic cleansing campaign. Zionism is a political organization built on the idea of Jewish supremacy carrying out settler colonialism, So we battle this, I think, every day, just people that are trying to label us as anti-Semitic, which is another word that I feel like is just overused, oversaturated, doesn't even mean anything anymore. Just say anti-Jewish, because anti-Semitic, you're conflating, again, you're conflating, a territory with a religion. The Semites are Palestinians.
Yep.
So how
Talk about it now.
the greatest
Look at the DNA test.
anti-Semitic organization in the world is the Israeli state. So I don't know if you're talking about interpersonal, relationships with your coworkers or whoever. Just I would like Lyteria says, just remind them that Judaism is not Zionism.
I think it can be really hard because there are a lot of Jewish people that do identify with Zionism. So to them, it's like it's the same. But for us, as non-Jewish people, to them, it's like, why are you making it seem like there's two separate things when I'm a Jewish person and I'm Zionist? So I do understand that that's really difficult. I think that it's also like, at this point, a year into this genocide, I'm so sick of having to constantly being like, I'm not anti-Semitic, or I constantly needing to ensure that I am worrying about the safety of Jewish people as Palestinians are being murdered. And it's not just Palestinians. It's like now the entire Levant region, where you have Lebanese people being bombed. You have people in Syria and Jordan and Egypt and Iran, and it's on and on and on. And it's like we are trying to secure the safety of a group of people who are not dying. We are worried about their feelings being hurt. Whereas one group of people are being exterminated. And we do not need to no longer consistently apologize and worry about their feelings. That's it. It's done. And I think we should show up with that same energy. It's like a year into this, we do not need to consistently worry about their feelings. A group of people in this entire region, we are at risk of going into a regional war. That is something that we should all be afraid of. And at this point, are we trying to ensure the safety of Jewish people's feelings at the juncture of a regional war? I think we need to be honest with ourselves. And we do this only when it comes to Muslims and Arabs, to make sure that, people are constantly like, both sides. Let me talk about both sides. And it's like, do people do both sides when they talk about the Holocaust? Like, do people go, I wonder how the Nazis felt? Like, I want to make sure. No one talks about the Nazis with compassion or empathy, but they feel that they need to do that when it comes to Arabs and Muslims. And that is inherent racism. And I'm so sick of it. It's like, no one does that when we talk about Black Americans and white Americans and their history. Mm-hmm. No one tries to find compassion for white Americans. Actually, they might, but you know what I mean? Black Americans are rightfully okay to call white person a cracker, and that is fine. Yeah. They have their right to feel that. But when it comes to Palestinians feeling that way about Jewish people, it's like, whoa, are you anti-Semitic? And it's like, why can't they feel to their fullest rage how they want to feel against a group of people who are killing them, who kill their mothers, their fathers, their brothers? Like, the situation in Palestine is way more severe than I fear that we are actually witnessing as. And I think that Palestinians have every right, and not just Palestinians, Lebanese people, this entire region that has been part of this for decades, their grandparents and parents are literally dying. They have every right to feel whatever they want to feel towards Jewish people, towards Zionists, whatever. And we should give them the right to feel that, instead of trying to make sure that we are chokeholding them into making sure that they are being politically correct at the juncture of the genocide. It is unfair and it's racist.
Yeah. I think this ties into what you said about the hierarchy of needs. You have to worry about your basic needs, your life, eating, not starving, before you can worry about all these other things. And I think what you're saying also ties into how people want to police the way Palestinians resist.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Mm-hmm.
Do you condemn Hamas? I'm not one to judge. They have the right to resist violently.
Yes.
That's international law.
That's international law.
That's right.
And I think, like, even when we talk about the resistance in the Middle East, this is not just something that was born organically. When we talk about Hezbollah and Hamas or any of the militias, that this is a direct response of Western violence in the region. That is not because one day people grew up and was like, we're going to be Islamic extremists. No, that is a response to Western violence and Western interference in the region. So when people talk about Iran, we need to talk about the history of Iran and America and the UK's influence in Iran. So if you're not willing to talk about that, then don't talk about resistance. Don't. If you're not gonna do shit, don't talk about shit. That's how I feel.
And on that note, we're going to move on to the next question. Thank you. Who's next? Thank you. That was a great question.
Thank you for all of you guys speaking up. Appreciate what you're doing. They told me to stand up. So my question is twofold. One is, Guy, you talked about taking concrete steps to protect not only your inner peace, but your safety and your family safety. If you can talk a little bit about that. And then if you or anybody on the panel has any concerns about TikTok making itself, or them making TikTok illegal in the U.S. and how you think this is going to affect your messaging online. Thank you.
Yeah, so I will say, I've been making content on social media for about 5 years, since I was 14 years old. And so I've been doing this for a long time, and throughout the years, even before I was an activist, people would harass me and my family, and it has taken a toll. I'll share that. It's taken a toll, and it's important, and I tell this to fellow creators that I meet, that you have to protect your privacy. And so I attend college as a freshman. I don't share with near anybody where I go to college. I don't share the town I grew up in, the towns I lived in, where my family's home is. I don't say any of that. And it's to protect not only my relationship with my family, because all of this creates tension there, but our peace and our safety. And it's hard. It really is. It is hard.
It's in Hawaii. That's what we just
Yeah, I got to school in Hawaii. And I guess just to start talking about the TikTok ban, we all know that they shoved the ban to essentially ban TikTok into the bill this spring that gave Israel $26 billion in military aid. And they did it last minute. And then I think less than 2 months later, we saw Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, and Mitt Romney trash. Exactly. Talk about how they moved to ban TikTok because it is the platform that is the most pro-Palestinian. And so I guess I'll leave that with you guys to add on. So,
the TikTok ban. I feel I don't really think about it. I don't think it's going to become illegal. I think TikTok is not going anywhere. Isn't the servers, the censorship, servers, aren't they controlled by
Oracle.
ex-NATO officials? Yeah.
Oracle, yeah. They moved into the United States under Trump when Trump attempted to ban TikTok.
The genie is out of the bottle. If it's not going to be TikTok, we're going to find another way. This is not going anywhere. There's always been resistance to these oppressive power structures that we have in our society. So but TikTok has been obviously very effective in changing people's mind, and obviously the people at the top are afraid of that. But
I want to say one more thing about this. So there have been 2, maybe 3 attempts at a TikTok ban over the course of my time on TikTok, and only this recent one has encouraged me to start posting on other platforms. And I encourage every activist, every person to post across platforms, because it's important that you maintain that community. We were talking about community building earlier, to bring all those different people together and keep yourself connected with that community. I think it's very important to do so. So, yeah.
I was sorry. I was also just speaking about being banned. It just occurred to me I'm permanently banned on TikTok Live for donning a ski mask and showing the Houthi flag. And then I got banned on YouTube for sharing Abu Ubaidah speech. He's a spokesperson for the 3 Hamasketeers, because everything is Hamas, obviously. But so I don't know. You have to. There's obviously a line you have to toe, and you have to. I haven't been good at it, but I pivot. I go to Twitter, or I'll go to
As much as we
Instagram.
hate Twitter.
As much as we hate Twitter, and as much as we hate apartheid Clyde, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a constant. It's a constant song and dance you got to play. I think with the censorship and the shadow banning, but.
We love free speech.
Right, you'd think so. I mean, but it's another thing is we always, or at least I always ask, free speech for who? Freedom for who? Democracy for who? And I always want to, I want to, pose this too. When you're critiquing or criticizing something, what is this criticism in service of? Who does the criticism serve? And we should always be punching up and make sure that our critique is, that way, not down. So it's another thing of, we don't get the right to tell Palestinians how they should resist being annihilated, okay?
Yep.
And Nali also brought up a really good rhetorical device that you can use to battle Zionist propaganda, which is just to create a metaphor, show an analog in history. So it's the same essential power dynamic as the Nazis and the Jews, or slaves and slave owners. It's the same power dynamic. So when you throw it to these other examples, it becomes crystal clear what's going on, and you can get through all the propaganda, I think.
Thank you. Now, you want to answer?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Hi, this is Shadow. I'm an artist, not an influencer, but I'm working on it. I'm working on how to not be shadow banned and censored, and I have literal questions about just how you maintain like not having features removed a lot, because I even have I can't even go live anymore because I was going live with people in Gaza like very often, almost every day, and then they just removed the feature completely. So things like that, and I'm on TikTok, and can I still go viral?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
There's hope, girl.
Okay. Can we do a collab?
I got you. Find me out there.
Because, when you start to watch the numbers fall, and I know a lot of people have experienced this, like this is a time where we really want our voices to be amplified if we feel the message in our hearts.
Yeah.
And with so many people being shadow banned and censored and having all these features removed, and knowing that sometimes these platforms it's all some people have, right? Because they're not able to build with their actual community around them. So online exists this community, and we're so grateful for it, right? But I've just experienced a lot of that, like, oh no, I'm falling behind. People aren't seeing this, and I'm posting really powerful shit, So I guess my question is like, what are the basic tools I think that you could share with people who might not have a big following, or just like those things that you always keep in mind as influencers, as people on social media who maintain, the platform without losing, every time, but like you're just gaining, right? We're gaining momentum. So what are just some of those like basic tools that you guys use that you always keep in mind when you're posting, especially when you're hashtagging? Do you guys hashtag Free Palestine anymore? No, we don't do that, right?
I do, but I'm a different breed.
Right. No, I've been told.
I still do because I'm shadow banned anyway. So I'm
Right.
I still do, but I use other tactics to combat the shadow ban, like we were talking about with the collaboration feature.
Right.
Is great. If you're being shadow banned, you reach out to other people in community, like, hey, I'm going to tag you on this post. I really wanted to get out there. A large part of it is communication, and I'm going to pass it to the panelists, but I just wanted to quickly say, a huge part of it is just pushing forward. Like, do not look at the numbers. I tell people, because if you do, then you will get caught up in that, I feel like maybe I'm not serving my people the way I should be serving. But you have to have an understanding of your passion and your purpose, and use that to keep going. Because if it's the numbers go up and they go down, and these platforms are rigged anyways. You just have to believe that your information is going to get to who it needs to get to, but also know you need a little bit of strategy. Okay, thank you.
I think what worked for me was one, just taking a break from social media, like kind of resetting it a little bit, and also sharing things that are not related to Palestine. I think there's also something that I've been wanting to talk about, but doom scrolling and constantly taking in all this information that is happening in Palestine. And I don't think it is good for our nervous system to see so much death. And I think it can be actually nice to take a break from it. And I found that that's what helped me, is also talking about other things. And then that just boosting the algorithm back up. But I think it's just a weight gain.
Even though I don't use hashtag Free Palestine, I use hashtag If You're a Guy, which is practically hashtag Free Palestine at this point. But I guess I'll share some strategies I keep in mind when I make content. I think posting consistently multiple times is one of the key strategies to building momentum on social media.
Actual post?
Actual post.
Yeah.
Actual
To your
post.
feed.
Post to your feed
Post
multiple
to the
times.
feed.
2 to 3 times or more in a day. That's what I try to do. I find that if I'm not doing that, and this is kind of messed up, if I'm not doing that, if I were to post once every 3 days or once a week, even no matter how good the post is, compared to what I've seen over the past couple of years is that the views come in waves. And when you have something, your opinion, a video go viral, that will build on as you continue to post every single day, and it'll crest and it'll fall back down. And that is what always happens. That's what I've seen in all my analytics on every platform. And sometimes, like I think 2 weeks ago, I was averaging. I'd spent 8 hours editing a few videos for my pages, and I was so disappointed to see they didn't even break 15,000 views on my TikTok. I was like, what's going on? And then this week I had a video for the first time in probably 3 or 4 months hit 1 million views, and it just comes in waves, and you have to ride it. You have to ride the wave sometimes. Other techniques I use is I'm very vocal in the words. I don't mince words, so I'll say it's a genocide in my videos. And the TikTok will flag that word. They'll flag if you say Hamas or Hezbollah. And what I've done is I like putting captions on my videos. I think it helps people like comprehend and understand what I'm talking about. But I will go through my captions and censor myself. I'll use emojis, and I found that does help. Yeah, so those are some strategies.
I think what my good friend Guy is trying to say is you should do what's commonly referred to as shit posting. You know, just constantly being visible and loud and posting 2 to 3 times a day. And I think consistency really is key. But apart from that, they've caught on to all my tricks at this point. Okay, I've run out of tools in my toolbox. I'm hoping that you can actually help me learn some new tricks, because yeah, I'm all out. So
again, I would recommend posting across different social media platforms, as well as sometimes a video will be suppressed, and all you need to do is cut out a little part at the beginning or end, and it'll perform entirely differently. Yeah, and the difference can be like 400, 500% sometimes. I've seen a recent example of that has happened to me.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta take from Malcolm X to MLK real quick for Instagram, because they be censoring. It's true. It's true. I think. Did you want to add anything else? Okay. I think we have time for one more question. So take it away. Thank you.
Right. Is this thing working? Okay, great. I just want to say, like, man, it is so terrible that you have to go through threats and you have to go through is this great. It is a terrible thing that you have to. And how old did you say you were?
18. I turned 19 very soon now.
That's terrible, man, that you're going through all this, people trying to find out where you live, and it's just terrible, man. You know, you probably receive letters or text messages, right? That kind of stuff. You thinking about Dr. King and Malcolm X, Abraham Lincoln, they all experienced the same thing that you're experiencing, man. Did they ever stop? No, they never stopped. The only time they stopped was when don't even think about it, man. Don't even think about it. It was a terrible thing that they went through, experiencing threats, life threats, and
It's a very uplifting question.
We're off to a great start.
they got shot. It was a terrible thing.
Don't even think about it, man.
Listen, that's the part nobody wants to talk about, though. Like, the truth comes with.
Censoring you, yeah, man.
I think it just kind of relates to the algorithm. Sometimes you have to serve and feed the algorithm. And I disagree with the living under the algorithm. I wish it was just the following feeds like it used to be in the old days. The old days.
You have old days?
The old days.
The old days?
The old days.
You're 18. What are you talking
The old
about?
days, guys. Come on, hear me out.
The good old days.
The good old days. Listen. But it actually is serious. Like, I have millions of followers on TikTok, but my videos don't get seen by any of my followers. It's all on the For You page. Yeah. Nobody goes through their following pages anymore. Right. It's because the algorithms are more addictive. Did you want to continue with your question?
Right, yeah, no, not a question. I just need you to.
Don't worry about it.
There was a question.
Yeah, there is one more question I wanted to try to sneak in real quick. Butch, don't be mad at me, please. She's been waiting so patiently.
You're going through what Dr. King, Malcolm X, all these people, man. And you have to stay strong. You cannot stop, man.
Cut it off now.
You must have a mic.
Thank you.
Simon, can I ask you a favor? We have time for one question, and I'd like to pass to the young lady here because you had a panel earlier today. Would that be okay? Just nod and say yes.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. So my question is, so we have Collaborate and Twitter Spaces and Discord and other open spaces and TikTok. I was wondering. So love and collective humanity is powerful. Everything that makes us cry, laugh, and think can bind us together in a collective consciousness. Online communities are a part of the future, but when the falling empire sees us sharing knowledge and being united with a common goal, they crush it by making changes in our real world. How can we maintain our solidarity?
Thank you for the question.
I think one, realizing when it's happening. And I think that requires being, I have to say awake, but there has to be some type of, I always say this as when we talk about all these wars and genocides, we need to actually talk about what the root cause is. And it's the reason for all these wars and genocides is for resources. Yeah. That is what they're mining resources. And that means that this is a war on nature, which is an ecocide. And we need to recognize that we are all part of one life force. So even if you are not recognizing what is happening to people in Palestine, you are still affected. We are energetically connected. So I think that it requires some type of connection to your source. Whatever your faith is, whatever. You have to have connection to source, to God, whatever, your universe, so that when you realize that the algorithm or these outside forces is trying to break us apart, you need to be aware of it. And I think once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You'll see it everywhere. You'll see how they had Cardi B say, in November, she's not endorsing anybody, and now she's all about Kamala. And you need to look at that and be what is happening here? And really look at it from a bird's eye point of view. And if you are able to see it from a bird's eye point of view and you're awake to what's happening, I feel like there's no way this solidarity can be breaking. And I think that this is a revolution. This is a movement. It's going to take time. This is not just a fad. This is a real thing. And a couple weeks ago, I went to the screening for Mutulu Shakur about, I just want to say this briefly, but it was about the Young Lords and the Black Panthers in the 70s, and they took over Lincoln Hospital. They literally went in and occupied the hospital in protest of the misconduct happening at Lincoln Hospital. There was a member from the Young Lords that was present at the screening, and I remember he said something like, that was also a revolution. What was happening in the 60s and 70s was also a revolution, but he said he feels that that revolution was failed. He said, we have another chance at revolution, and we have to ensure that we do not fail this time, because this is the last time we can actually have it.
I think that was a great answer.
Yeah. I mean, like, the only minority that we need to blame and oppress is the 1%. And the point that I'm trying to make is that there's way more of us than there are of them. So, I mean, we need more people to understand this and understand that we have the power in numbers. We just got to get everybody all on the same page. I had another point, but I'm drawing a blank now.
And that's why we try to educate people and get the word out, because that's all that makes the difference, is people hearing what our messages are, what we're trying to do. That's important. So, yeah.
And they're completely illegitimate. These people, they have no right to this power. Why are we giving them power?
Yeah.
You know, and they're exploiting all of us every day, and it's enraging. As soon as I learned how exploitative capitalism is, and you know, I've had this flowery disposition my whole life that there must be some justification for how things are. You know, might makes right. It was just a fallacy. But as soon as you pull back the layers, you see that it's all illegitimate. There's no legitimacy whatsoever. So you know, we're gonna win.
We gonna win. We're gonna win. On that note.